we're now going to learn about if statements, and I think the best way to learn if statements is to see it in practice. Um, so here we have a print line, a print that says what's your level of pain. 1, 3. And we have a read line that turns into an int. Don't worry about the question marks, but we'll learn that in another video. Just changes it to an int so it's a little easier. Then it prints and you'll be okay. We want a different print line to show up on the screen for each different number. So 1, it'll be and you're okay, and 2, 2, you're a little hurt, and then 3, you better go to the hospital. And to do that, we need an if statement. So what an if statement does is we have if, and then we have the parentheses, very similar to our how we call a function like read line or print. In this parenthesis, you say something that equals true, and that will run. So, for example, we can have a number equals 1. Now you may be thinking, what does this equal mean? These two equals mean. And when you have number equals 5, we're changing the value of number 5. Get that because we have a squiggly line under it that's saying we need a var, that we're changing the variable. But here, on the double equal sign, we don't have a squiggly line because it's not changing the value of that variable. When we have double equals, it's saying if number equals 1. We're not assigning 1 to number, we're checking if number equals 1. And we can go and have our block here, and whatever that's in here, so if number equals 1, this will run. Anything in here will run. So for example, copy that in there. Run this. Say we say 2, nothing prints. We run it again, say 1, this you'll be okay because number does equal 1, and then it ran in these blocks. Now we're gonna get into a little harder things. We can say, so you learned in my math class maybe a very long time ago that we have, greater than and less than. So 1 is greater than 0, for example. We can do that same thing here. So if number is greater than 1, that, and the again, don't worry about these. We'll I deal with that in another video, but I had to change something really quick. So we have if number is greater than 1, and you'll be okay. So if the number is greater than 1, it'll run this stuff in this block. So if we put 2, say you'll be okay. But if we put 1 or lower, it won't print. Now if we want 1 to run, if we want greater than or equal to 1, you just put equals after it. Looks like a frowny face. So if we put 1, say that. If we put 2, it'll say that. It'll say 3, we'll say that. We want. Now another thing is that number equals 1, that's true. And if we have something like, we put 1 and we want, if we input 1, this equals 2, that'll be false. So in theory, if we would put true here, it should always run. If we put 0, if we put any number, it should run, because all this does is check if is true and print line. This is called a Boolean. You can do the same thing. We have a type of Boolean. Put that in there, we can have number equals 1. And that is the same exact thing. A Boolean value, it can only be true or false. So this if statement is checking if this is true or false. So 1 equals 1 would equal true. 1 equals 2, and you put in 1 would equal false. Now we have more things. We put this back. We have something called else if. Which is pretty much another if statement. Now you may be thinking, why don't I just put another if here? And what that is, I mean, if you put another if, they'll run twice. So, for example, if you have this, it'll run twice. If we have greater than 0, it'll run twice. Same thing, but if we put an else if, what an else if does is it pretty much says if number equals 1, it'll print this. And then it will just skip this else if and go down here. It'll say, oh, well, you know, I found what was true, I'm done. Let's get out of here. We can see that. That's in here. But 1 greater than 0, it'll say, it'll be okay. And it skipped this because it said, this is true. Do this, but just don't do this. And we have also something called else. This doesn't have a parentheses around it. It just says if number equals 1, it'll run this, but if it can't find anything that it equals to, we'll just run else. Dying. Okay. So if your pain level is greater than 1, you're dying. Cool. If we put 1, you know, you'll be okay. If we run it again, we put 2, you're dying because it's great. This isn't true, so it says, oh, well, there's no true ones here, so let's just do else. So if we put 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, this is going to print either way. So if we put else if number equals 2, yeah, and put are you okay? Now, if the number equals 1 or number equals 2, it'll say something. On my number 1, it will say, and you'll be okay. Number 2 will say, are you okay? And then if it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 20, -1, -2, it'll say you're dying. 2, are you okay? If we put 3, it'll say just dying. Then we can just put another else if 3, and then put an else of I. That's not between 3, because if we already have 1, 2, 3. If it doesn't equal those, it's not between 1 and 3. That's how you do if statements. We're going to create a program here, and we're going to have the computer ask us what type of ice cream you want, and it's going to output what price the ice cream is. So in this text file, we have vanilla, that's 120, chocolate is $2, and cherry is very expensive, apparently. It's $12. We're just going to adhere to that. First thing, we need a greeting. What ice cream would like? Put it at print. And that's a string. Now we have the ice cream that we picked out. Put it as a line. And don't worry about those double exclamation marks. And we're going to see if ice cream equals vanilla. That'll be 20. Let's see if that's printed that. Yep, we have vanilla. That'll be 120. Now I'll show you why we don't we'll do an else if cream equals chocolate bucks. That'll be $2. Want cherry as well. It'll be very expensive, price of $12. We have cherry, that'll be $12. All of them are working. So say we want also banana. It's also the same price as 120 is vanilla. So another else if. And then do that. That's kind of a waste of space. So we're gonna put these I think they're called pipes. Not exactly sure what they're called. But they're right above the enter button slash. You just press shift and you press that twice. And this pretty much just means or. So if ice cream equals vanilla, or ice cream equals banana. That banana. Put in banana, it will be, yep, we have 120. If we have something like $2, we can add that to the chocolate one. There we have it. We can also do if one thing equals something or if something equals that. So one can be false. This can be false. But they can't both be false. One has to be true. So if ice cream equals vanilla or ice cream equals banana, then we'll run this. We're going to improve all of these ifs, these if statements with when. So with when, it's a little cleaner to create. We have when, and then we have our condition, which is ice cream. We don't say equals vanilla. We just put if when ice cream, and then we put our conditions. So when ice cream equals vanilla, do this. That'll be 120. Right, so what's going on here is that we have a when statement saying when, and we're putting in the condition of ice cream. So when ice cream, when ice cream equals to vanilla, and then the arrow just means do this. It just points to, when it equals vanilla, do this. What happens if you want more than one of them? Well, you would just do the same thing. We'd put chocolate, for example. Print line, and that'll be $2. Another one, cherry, which is the most expensive one. That'll be $12. Now, can you see the problem with this? We can only do one thing at a time. If we try and do another thing, it's going to be confused. What we have to do is put these brackets in here, these curly braces instead, what this does is when vanilla equals, when ice cream, not vanilla, when ice cream equals vanilla, do this, but inside of a block. So we can do multiple lines, enjoy your vanilla, right? We can do more than one line when we do that, but we have to put in these curly braces. We have to do that. If we don't, it's only expecting this line. We have to put those in, and those are the difference with when and how to use when. Now, when is cool and all, and it makes it a lot easier to read, but there are some drawbacks with when. One of them is we can't put this fancy or here. We can only have one condition at a time, so when ice cream equals vanilla, we can't do that. Also, we can't have, a greater than sign. Those, can have a greater than sign or a less than sign. You can only have equals. And that's it. Those are the disadvantages of when. We can't have an equal, we can't have a or, and we can only do equals. We can't do greater than or less than, because when only takes one condition and then says when ice cream equals vanilla, when ice cream equals chocolate, it's not greater than or equal. You can't put or high or anything, it won't work. So when is very limited. It's only for very simple things such as if ice cream equals vanilla. And you can see here that it's a lot cleaner. It's a lot cleaner, but we have to write all the other code for a banana. So if we put, for example, banana, we have things that are doing more than the same thing. So we have vanilla and banana, they're printing the same exact thing. You have to do that for all of them, and that adds up if you have a lot of ors in there. So it should be something that's very simple, like this. So it won't have too many ors or ands, and it doesn't have greater than or equal to, then use when. If you need the ors or the ands, or you just need a greater than or less than, use the if statement. A list is something that we can hold multiple things into one variable. With that, we can have strings, ints, doubles, anything we want in that list, and we can have multiples of those into one variable. For example, we have names, and say we want more than one name, we need to create a list. And to create a list, we can do list of. And you see these, what these called are, but this is called a generic, which is when you have a list of, we're naming what we're putting as what type of variable we're putting inside of the list. So we're going to have a list of string. So with this, we have a list of string, the type. And we're putting the names into here. So I'd put Ted, Billy, Ryan. We have our names inside of here. Now this is a list. This is going to look a list of names. This one being the first, this one being the second, this one being the third. But lists don't work that way. The first value in a list is 0. So this is the 0th place of the list. This is the first place of the list, and this is the second of the list. And I'll prove that to you by saying I'll get the first value of the list. So when we want a value from our list, we have to do names and then put in these brackets, then put in the what's called an index. So Ted would be index 0, Billy would be index 1, Ryan would be index 2. And if you run that, it'll say name Ted. Okay, a different way. We can get them through .get as well, and also get 1, and we'll get Billy instead because Billy is index 1 in the list because it goes 0, 1, 2. We can also see if the list is empty. So let's see if it's empty. Is list empty? And let's see. We just do names.isEmpty, and it will give us a true or false value if it has names in here. Of course, it's going to be false because we have Ted, Billy, and Ryan. It's not empty, we have values inside of there. But if we delete all of these, as we can see, it's false here. If we delete all of these and run this again, it's going to be true. So now this is our first error. It's an index out of bounds error. You don't need to know exactly what this means here. Most of the time, I don't know what it means because it's a little complicated. But just look at over here. It says empty list doesn't contain elements at index 1, and that's correct. Our list is empty. Let's just get rid of that right now. We had an error. We were trying to get index 1 and we got an error. And we can see that the list is empty. We did the is empty and it equals true. We're now going to try and print all of these names out onto the screen. For example, we'll do hello names 0. Let's try and copy this 3 times. Okay, we have all our names. It's going to print out hello Ted, Billy, and Ryan. Here, but what happens if Ryan wasn't there? We would get an error, of course. Because Ryan isn't there, we can't get index 2 if it isn't there. We're going to get some type of error. And yeah, we have a array index out of bounds exception. What that pretty much means is that we were trying to access index 2 and index 2 doesn't exist. So how do we go against that? How do we do a loop of these of this list? Well, we have to do something that's called a for loop. We can make this a lot easier than just print line 3 times, or if we have more line, if we have more values within our list, we don't want to print each one. We would have, 20 lines of code. We can do that in a few lines of code with a for loop. What a for loop does is it pretty much just loops around all of the values within a list. We can do for. We can do name. Now you may think that I'm misspelled names, but we're going to get that into a second. What we're doing here is we're taking names and we're getting each individual value on them. So Ted, Billy, and Mandy. And we're naming it to name. I'll show you what I mean right here. This will make it seem a lot more, make more sense. So we have hello, Ted, Billy, Mandy, but I never put in index 0, 1, or 2. That's because name, what this does is it takes name and it takes the first index over here. It says hello, Ted, and then it gets down to here, and then it goes back up. Now it's index 2, and it says hello, Billy, goes down here, and then loops around back up here, comes down here, and then says Ryan. And to kind of prove that, we'll say looping times, we'll say sum of times looped equals 0. We'll take our number of loops equals number of loops plus 1. And since you var instead. What this is doing is every single time this is run, it prints out the number of times it looped. And then adds to it. And prints it out. So I forgot here we have to put in number of times looped, and let's run that again. Yeah, we now have we see that it says hello 0, hello 1, and then hello 2. So what this did is it looped around every time each index. We're essentially, what it's doing is it's starting at the line 1 over here, goes down, and then once it's at the second line, it goes back up here until it reaches the end of the list. Now we're going to create a list of our best friends, and we're going to print that to the screen. The first thing, we're going to have our variable with our best friends, so we're going to create a val mainly because we're not creating an entirely new list. List of with type of string, example like Ryan, Ted, and we're going to put one more name, and that's, put Dylan. And now a for loop, we're going to put friend in as friends. And now we're going to print each friend. Now we have all our friends printed out. That's